Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. So on the banner of my YouTube page is this image right here, and what this is like a bunch of 1 mil HiTrap columns with all of each packed with a different resin. You can use this technique with scouting in order to be able to test a lot of different chromatography resins at once, and basically be able to get to what will work best for you a lot faster. So these are ion exchange selection kits, and they come with 9 different columns. You should also be able to pick a CM column. I think they traded one out for another one, but ideally, given this red line right here, which is like effectively the same conductivity gradient, you should expect to see, each of these columns give you a different elution kind of profile, and based on these you might want to pick this selection profile, whatever this column is. The image didn't come out very well, but you might want to select this elution profile over, say, this one right here. So anyways, so for this method we're going to write, this is an anion exchange selection method. So we're going to have 4 different columns, each attached to the column valve all at once, and then we're going to have a single protein, which we're going to assume is partially purified, maybe by some kind of affinity chromatography first, right? We're only going to have 2 buffers, right? A buffer that's pH 8 on A1, and a buffer that's the same pH, same buffer, but it has 0.5 molar sodium chloride in it. The sample is on S1, but the buffer port for the sample valve is also in the same buffer here as the pH 8. So for this whole method, we're going to run at 1 mil a minute. We're going to equilibrate the column quite extensively, 10 CVs. We're going to wash the column between loading and elution for 5 CVs. Then we're going to elute with 5 CV gradient at 100%. The target is 100% B. We're going to do peak fractionation. These are the parameters we're going to use, and we're going to assume that the 0.5 molar sodium chloride cleans everything out. We could be much more prolific about cleaning out the column, but I think in this case it probably would be better just to make this assumption and move on. Okay, so let's write the method and go to Unicorn. Alright, so here we are in Unicorn, and as always, when we want to start writing a method, we're going to go up here to the top left and create a new method. So here is the system we're going to select. This method will probably work best on an Avant 25, and this system right here is an Avant 25, and we're just going to use the empty method. Okay, great. Now what I like to do, the first thing we have to do is we have to fill out all the method phases. So I'm going to go to View and then Phase Library, and I'm just going to select User Defined, and I'm going to put it in here. And so the first method I'm going to do is going to be called System Flush. Oops, capital F. And just so you guys don't have to watch me do all of these, I'm going to pause it here and I'll come back, and all I'm going to do is just put a bunch of phases here. Each of them is going to be totally empty. Alright, so I've filled the phase library, I filled the phase section up of the method, and each of these phases is just completely empty. So you didn't miss anything. Right, and this time I did a better job of spelling the word equilibration. I'm not going to use the phase library anymore, so I'm just going to close that. This time I'm going to leave the gradient window open at the bottom, especially since this is anion exchange. It'll help us out quite a bit. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is select my column. So now we are planning on using 4 or 5 different columns, but we'll just start out with one column in particular. We'll do, let's see here. Actually, I think we're going to do HiTrap Fast Flow. Okay, so here it is. HiTrap Fast Flow 1 mil. change. Okay, so now the first thing that's going to come up is it's going to change the parameters of the method we're using. And these were all parameters that are, can I open this? No, these are all parameters that are inside the method settings. And we're just going to hit OK. All right, so now I'm going to adjust some of these things. The only one I really like to keep is this high pressure alarm, right? I'm going to just delete this delta pressure alarm, and then I'm going to eliminate all of the UV signals as variables, because we're always just doing 180, we're always just doing 280 nanometers. And the idea here is that when we go to the variable list, so the variable list can be seen here in view, variable duration and variables, and then variable list. I just don't want this to be too incredibly long, because as we go through the method and we fill out more stuff and put more variables in, it can get quite long. So noise reduction is at 5. That's never going to change. So I'm just going to put that there. So that has no variable there. The injection valve, this is the default, which is manual load. The outlet valve is outlet waste. That's the default. The column position, we know it starts out as bypass. So we don't even need this here because that's just the default position of the system. So I'm just going to delete this instruction right here. The less you have, the better. The easier it is to read, right? Okay, so we're going to have the pH valve in line, and because these are 1 mil columns, we need these. We need the flow restrictor in line as well. However, we don't need these as variables. So I'm just going to clear both of them, since we'll never want to change these for this method. Okay, so for the air sensors, this is how we normally would want it. If we end up going through a lot of buffer for this method, and we easily can, believe it or not, only running 1 mil a minute, we're going to want to have the first two for Inlet A and Inlet B enabled. But I don't need to see these as variables. And same thing with the sample inlet. And the reason we want this one disabled is because that way it'll be able to tell us when. So the alarm is different than like a watch instruction. So if the alarm sounds, then it's going to pause the method, and you're going to get like a red box on the LCD screen on the Avant, and you're just going to have to like disable the alarm and then be able to keep going. And that's when the alarm and the watch instruction, being two different things, are going to trip at the same time, is what I'm saying. But since we don't need this as a variable, I'm also just going to get rid of that. Okay, I'm going to leave Inlet A and B here just so we can see them. And we're going to move the system flow here in just a second because I want to have it here with a system flush. Okay, this is going to be a very simple method. If you watched my last video, I put a bunch of delay blocks in there, but after doing some experimentation, I saw I didn't need a bunch of delay blocks. So we'll just do that. Okay, so I am going to make a block as a variable, and I'm going to say flow rate, insert. And so having the flow rate in a block like this called flow rate is going to allow me to synchronize it. You can see my blocks and phases video regarding why you would want to synchronize this thing. We're not going to synchronize it yet. This is the only time it's called out, is right here. But when we call it out again, you'll see the synchronization. All right. So now that we've actually turned on the system, right, and it's running, we want to actually be able to flush out the system. So I'm going to change, this is at CV, so I want to actually have the base SameAsMain, and I want it to be volume. And now I can change the end block, and I want it to be 5 mils. I think I have a 0.6 mil mixer on here, so 5 mils should be plenty of volume to wash this thing out. Change, I'm going to make this a variable. No, I'm not. Okay. And then what I realized here is I don't have a pump wash instruction. So I'm going to go back to this. And right here at the very end, right after inlet A and B, I'm going to put pump wash instruction. Pump wash. Okay, I'm just going to do wash A. Okay, I'm not going to actually wash anything. This is just so I know that I can actually see it as a variable. Wash B. Wash then, so I want to put the sample inlet on buffer. So insert. Okay, so the reason the sample inlet buffer is in is we have to think about this as multiple runs, right, of the same run all at once. So we're going to do the first run. It's going to be a HiTrap Q fast flow column. It's not going to be HiTrap Q. But let's say we do the second one, and that's a HiTrap Q column. Well, the inlet may have air in it if we've completely filled it. If we were doing 2 samples, okay. So actually, we don't need this because of this right here. We're only using a single protein sample, so we'll just do that. We'll leave it off. All right, so we're going to leave this off, right? We're never going to load more than 1. Yeah, so we never have to wash it more than once. Change, okay. So that's the system flush, right? Flow rate 1 ml a minute. We're doing that for 5 minutes. So now we're going to do the column equilibration. So this is where we go to flow path, and then column position, and then position 1. Change. Whoops, no, insert. Okay. So let's see here. So then, since this is the column equilibration, we're going to do this for 10 CVs. And we're going to title this as a variable. Okay. Change. Make sure I've got everything there that I need. I am going to put a gradient instruction in here, just in case. It's just so I can actually, not just in case, putting a gradient instruction in here so that I can see it, and I know that this is how I want it to run. Like, part of the reason you put instructions in is because you need to actually tell it to do something. Another reason you put instructions in is because you need to be able to remind yourself that something is happening. I want it above the column. So I think, nope. There, okay. So, right, so part of the reason we put instructions in is because we want to see something, and the other one is we actually want to see it happen. We actually need something to physically happen. So want to see it here, want to have it physically happen right there. Okay, I think that's it for that phase. So the next phase is the load sample phase. So the first thing we have to do is turn the system flow off. System flow, insert. And the reason we have to do that is because we need to change the injection valve to inject, and the system flow and the sample flow cannot run at the same time. So now that the system flow is at 0, the injection valve is at inject, we can change the sample flow to the loading flow rate. We'll just do 1 ml a minute. Make this a variable. Insert. Oh, wait, inject. I think we want direct inject. Sorry, I got my notes wrong. Okay, so direct inject. Sample inlet also needs to be specified. So we're going to do that before we turn on the sample flow. Flow path, sample inlet. And we're going to name this variable as sample inlet. Okay, insert, direct inject, sample inlet, 1 milliminute loading flow rate. Okay, and then Ross is going to put in an auto 0 here, according to my notes, which seems reasonable. That's under monitors, auto 0, insert. Okay, so I also like to give it, after auto zeros, I always like to give it a second to, before I do anything else, I like to put a delay block in here so that we can actually give the UV time to zero out. So I'm going to put in a delay block. Call it delay A. In my mind, this just makes everything simpler. Maybe you don't like having these delay blocks there. You know what? You don't really have to have them there, honestly. Put it in here. See, I'm going to turn on the sample flow 1 milliminute. Everything's going to be ready to start injecting here. That means I'm going to be loading this delay block for 3 seconds. So this is a bad idea, putting a delay block in here. See what I mean? So we have the sample flow, sample inlet, everything's going, right? For sample inlet is buffer, it's going to be S1 change. So if I made this delay block, let's say I did this as time here, change, and then minutes, 0.05, that's going to be 3 seconds, it's metric time, change. So this would mean that for 3 seconds, I have sample flow running with this particular sample inlet. So, what would that be, like 30 microliters, I think, would be starting to load, which isn't much, 30 microliters, but maybe I don't want that there. So, I don't think I need an auto 0 here. Well, I do need an auto 0. Okay, so we're going to do an auto 0, but we're going to do it after the injection valve. So I am going to move this before we turn on the sample inlet and the sample flow. Okay, right there, auto 0. Then we'll just go without a delay. Delete. Okay, there we go. We'll just do that. Let's see how that works. Okay. Plus, we also have the averaging time is 5 whole seconds. So that should also help us in terms of like having to have that delay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm also going to add an injection mark here. That's under watch. Nope, that's under pumps or flow path. I can never remember. Injection mark. There we go. Insert. Okay, so now. This is a particular case where you may want to collect your flow through. So we're going to put in fractionation here. So we're going to do peak fractionation. We have to do peak fractionation parameters first. So peak fractionation parameters, we're going to do level. As I recall, we said that the start level was going to be 100 milliabsorbance units, right? This is going to be start frac threshold. Okay, and then we're going to do end level. I think we said it's going to be 75. We can do 100. Let's just do 100. Both the same for both of them. And peak frac threshold. I think insert. Okay, so we have peak fractionation parameters. Now we're going to do peak fractionation. There we go, 96 well plate, and we'll do 2 mils. Insert. These are really tiny columns, so that'll be fine. Okay. So now that we've done the peak fractionation, we have the sample flow. We are going to do a hold, and this will give us, watch, hold until. So we're going to hold until there's an air sensor in the inlet valve. So this time we're only going to be, oh, we did this again. Okay, so we had the same problem last time. So the load phase, the sample phase, right? Okay, let's go back to watch, hold until. Right now, this timeout instruction is in set as 5 CVs. I want it to be 5 mils. So, you know, we can do this either way. We have to change, that means we have to change the SameAsMain instruction. So we can do either CVs right now and then change it later to to volume, or we can do it the other way around. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, we're gonna put the hold instruction right after these peak fractionation parameters. So watch, hold until. Okay, and we're gonna do the air sensor in the sample inlet equals, right, equals what? Well, the value is either no air or air. So if we run out of sample, we get air. After what right now says 5 CVs, that's when we want it to stop holding, right? So we're gonna hit insert right here. Okay, so I don't want it to be 5 CVs anymore, so I want it to be 5 mils. So I'm going to go back here to SameAsMain, and I'm going to change this to volume, change. All right, so now it says 5, it says volume right there, so this should be 5 mils. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, great. Yep, but let's do this a little differently. I want to load lots of volume on here, because these columns can actually hold a lot of sample. So we'll do 10 mils, change. Okay, so now I like to do this by inserting a block. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You could have a whole new phase that's like called reset system, or you could do it as another block. Like you can skin this cat any way you want. So I am going to do a block, and that's how I like to do it. So I like to do all of my sample loading and finish my sample loading all inside the same phase. So maybe one day I'll show you how to do it with the phases. Really, it's just what I'm naming here as a block. You would really just do it as a new phase. So I'm going to call this reset system. Insert. Okay. So the way we do this is we go, I feel the best way to do this is to, the physical connections that involve the actual pumping of liquids over the system, over the column, need to be changed back. Anything like the injection mark or fractionation doesn't need to be changed, or auto zero. So, but it's best to do it in reverse order from here. So don't need to change the hold or the fractionation or the injection mark, right? So here's sample flow. So we want to put a sample flow instruction in reset system that's, the exact opposite of this. That would be 0 mils a minute. So let's go to flow path, sample flow, 0 mils a minute, insert. Okay, so after sample flow, sample inlet, well, we're planning on doing sample inlet the entire time, right? So the next time we go through this scouting run, we're still going to be running off of S1, right? Because of this right here. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna stick with sample inlet. Then auto zero, we don't need to change that because that's not pumping liquids. So direct inject, we want to change that back to manual load, but we need to do that down here. So we want to do that after sample flow. So flow path, injection valve, manual load, insert. All right, so go back up here going from reading from the bottom to the top, direct inject, so sample flow. So we need to reissue the flow instruction. This is where we're going to synchronize the flow rate block. So we only have to say this flow rate variable for the method once. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it in here under reset system. We want it to show up underneath this injection valve. So if we highlight this one, it'll show up underneath it. Oops, we're going to go paste. And then in this text box right here, it's going to say, do you want your block independent or not? If you don't want it independent, that means you want it synchronized. So we want it synchronized, so we're going to hit no. And then you see the block appear here, right? And the instruction and the variable are the exact same as they are up here in this flow rate block right here. That means they're synchronized. Okay, so that's everything we need for resetting the system, I think. Let's check. All right, I was just looking at this. I don't think we need to put pressure flow control here as a variable, so I'm going to get rid of this too. Okay. Change, and you notice that when I did it down here, just real quick example, right here in the other synchronized block, you'll notice that the variable disappeared as well. Okay, so close that, close this. All right, so I'm kind of paranoid. I like to make sure that this reset system block is read after the hold until. So what I like to do is just make this a tiny portion later. So I'm going to hit change. That means I need to know I weigh 0.01 mils. That's like 10 microliters needs to go. So that's not going to be, and if there was air here that they found, there's plenty more volume than 10 microliters. That's what this is, this one right here. Then there's going to be in the tubes. So I don't have to worry about pumping for 10 extra microliters there. And I get the reassurance that the system will wait to read this reset system. Though I don't even think I need that, honestly. Just old school, and I like to be paranoid. Okay, so now wash column. This is actually a very simple block. We're going to do this as a volume for the base. No, so volume, and I was thinking about volume because I think I said earlier we want to wash it for 10 mils. But this column is essentially a 1 mil column, right? So I was kind of getting messed up. So we're going to do SameAsMain, which is CVs, and we're going to wash for 5 CVs, I think. Yeah. Okay. And we're going to call this length of wash. Okay. Change. All right. Now we're going to do gradient elution. And so for a ion exchange method, this is where the magic happens, right? So we're going to insert a gradient instruction. And the first instruction is, so what I'm looking for is, like, let's say my gradient starts here at 12. I want to see, or let's say it starts here at 10. I want to see a gradient, like a linear gradient, go up here to 17.5. And I want it to reach 100. Then after that, I want it to be flat for, let's say, 2.5 CVs, right? So I know that at least there's a whole CV of 100% B that's run through the column, and then I'm gonna have it go back down to 0. Okay, so I kind of want like a door jamb kind of shape here, right? Okay, so target is going to be 100% B, and it's going to be 7.5 CVs like we talked about. Insert. Okay, now I want to be able to do these as variables just in case I wanted to change them at a later time. So we'll see, and then the length is going to be okay, and then change. All right. So this is now 17.5. That's because I was messing around with this earlier. Like I cut that part of the part out of the video, but I want this plateau here. I want it to be 2.5 CVs extra. So what I'm going to do is 7.5 here, and then I'm just going to make this 10, and that'll fix it. Change. So now you'll see this is the perfect shape that I was looking for right here, and it'll go down. Once we add another phase to the end here, you'll see it'll be that, it'll have the kind of squarish part there. And that phase is the Reequilibration phase. And so this one is going to have a gradient instruction in it as well. 0, insert. Okay. And then this is going to be the length of Reequilibration. Okay, and we're going to make this 5 CVs here. Change. Okay, so I want to make sure that I fix one of the problems I missed on my last video. Wait, first off, see, there you go. You can see that the method ends right here. We got that nice square part going down right there. Okay, now what I was saying before is that in my last video, I forgot to put end peak fractionation and gradient 0. So we got the gradient 0 there, but we forgot to put in the end peak fractionation. So I'm going to do this right around Reequilibration. So right here is where I'm going to stop any fractionation that goes on. So we could collect, we can collect peaks at all the way from sample loading all the way through to the end of elution. So fraction collection, stop peak fractionation. No. There we go, stop peak fractionation. I guess I need it there in order to be able to put it in. Okay, insert. There we go. Okay, so stop peak fractionation. All right, I think that's it for the actual method. But we're not done. So, because we finished it so that we can have like a single run of a column that's AKTA Q fast flow, right? Okay, well, first off, let's check to see how long that's going to take. We'll save it. Let's save it as ion exchange. Oops. Okay, so we're going to save it in the examples folder. We're going to save it as ion exchange selection. Right? So save. Okay, but we haven't selected anything yet, right? We haven't figured out what resin, if any one chromatography resin is better than the other. So we're going to do our start protocol, and we're going to turn on the fraction collector, the variable list, and scouting. Okay, and then, you know what, this time I'm going to do text instructions and notes as well. Right, okay, that'll do it. This will sort of give us a full idea of what we're looking at. And like I was saying earlier, let's go look at duration and variables so we know how long this method will take. So this is in time. So we know this method is going to take 34 minutes basically. And we're going to run through 34 mils, right? It's not too bad, pretty fast. This is what the variable list looks like. It's not too long. Close. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on scouting. So this is where we're going to do column type. Okay. Yeah, so the column type is the name of the variable there. I'm going to hit OK, and I don't like column type as a name for a variable. I am going to change it. Let's see if we can do this. I'm just going to do column. Okay, I don't know why, that just sounds better to me. Okay, so I think that eliminates it, yeah, as a scouting variable. So we're just going to hit column, and we're going to do flow rate. This will kind of give us a feel for what the method is supposed to look like, right? And then I also like to do sample inlet, length evolution, and then let's do, I don't think we made a variable for how much we're going to load, did we? Let's put that in too. So we decided that is under hold until, and it's this timeout variable right here. So we're going to click that, and so sample load volume, we'll call it. Okay. Change, so we'll add this as a scouting variable. Sample load volume. Okay, so hopefully this looks like kind of what we're going to see for the whole entire method, right? I don't, yeah. Oh, you can't make this bigger. That's great. Okay, so then what we're going to do now is we're going to do 4 columns. So we're going to add 3 more runs. And right now these are all HiTrap Q columns, and we need a column position too. So select. Do we not have a column position? Okay, don't tell me we forgot to just put in column position as a, nope, okay, column position, thank goodness. Okay, so we need a variable for column position. I can't tell you how many times I do this sorts of thing where you're just like, oh, I forgot this one variable. Okay, this is the meat and potatoes of chromatography right here, folks, you're looking at it. Change. Okay, so scouting, and then select variable, column position. Okay, and so column position right here, and we're going to do, the first one is going to be Q, position 1, and then we're going to do each of these as a different position. So position 2, position 3, position 4. So we're going to find out which one of these columns is best. And so the first one's HiTrap Q. Then the next one we'll do HiTrap Q flow through. So then, let's see here. Now the ones I run, because I'm probably going to do a video that shows the setup of this, I didn't write it down which columns I have, because it's been a while since I bought a package of these columns. They might be different, all right, from what we're actually doing right here. So just full disclosure. So I think we're going to do HiTrap Q XL. And then we're going to do, let's do HiTrap DAE. That's another one. Okay, DEAE fast flow. And then we'll do HiTrap. I'm going to do SP. Oh, we'll do HiTrap AEX. Right? Wasn't that one of the ones in the chromatogram, like the multi-chromatogram thing I showed you at the very beginning? I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. HiTrap butyl. HiTrap, oh come on, AX has to be, oh, AXN, sorry. High sub, sure, we'll do HiTrap ANX high sub. Okay. Okay, there we go. So now, I think that's it. I hope this helps. If I have made any mistakes, I'll check the method, try to get it to see if I can do an example run. I'll put anything at the end of this video, so just a second to make a correction. I'll also post the text of this method in the comment section of the video, so you can like print that out and then type it into your own method editor. Don't forget to save, folks. Thank you very much. Make a comment below if you have any suggestions for other types of chromatography you want to see me do. Thank you. So I plan to go in depth more about the results that I got from running this method that we just wrote together but I just wanted to skip ahead really quick to show you what the results actually look like. And one of these runs, the second run, which would be the QXL chromatography resin, actually was able to resolve a shoulder here to the right of the main peak, which means that this chromatography resin is able to resolve something that the other resins aren't able to. Watch my future videos for a more in-depth look at what these resins can do.